Hello and welcome to a very special Our Reviewers Will Kill You! Coming to you on the scariest of mischief. Now, we take you over to your host, the biggest bloodsucker of them all!
That's right, it's Mischief Night, and it's Our Reviews Will Kill You. I am the man you may know as Mostly Mighty Thor NZ, and I am your host tonight for a spooktacular Horrorween. We've been plugging it all week, doing a little bit of this horror, a little bit of that horror. I have my co-host with us, as always, Yoda Baka. Yoda Baka, the best. What a great costume. Yoda, so innovative. And then you have like just the most stupid, but like laziest, useless. What are you, Miles Nooblonus?
Yeah, I'm Miles Nooblonus.
That's Noob.
I do extra blowing while I'm Miles.
He just he'll go miles and miles.
Miles for blowjobs.
I have no idea. His costume is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. So we have that uselessness.
I'm celebrating Miles Morales on Spider-Man on PS5. Miles Morales edition.
The widest mouth edition?
The widest mouth edition, yes. It is.
And then we also have the producer extraordinaire. I don't know what he's dressed as either, but he's pretty scary. It's Scott Keebler.
I am dressed in my Happy Halloween costume. I'm pretending to be a producer. And now me pretend to give myself some color here instead. Hello. How's that? Look at that magic. Now we're in color, from black and white to color. We just got in the present times. No, I'm wearing my Halloween shirt. Forget the candy. Give me beer.
They could beer bomb you candy down one of those. You've seen those social distance candy things?
Yes, the PVC candy. Yeah. Well, you can just pour the beer right down the PVC. I mean, whatever. There's alcohol. It's going to kill whatever's in there.
I'm sure. And it looks like we've got a lot of the usual suspects out there in the chat. I see our man Doc. We haven't seen you in a while, Doc, but good to see you back. Ron, the Stone Cold Killer, is out there. Bootleg out there. Unboxing movies with me. Be sure to check out his channel. Sam Jr. of the Sam Jr. channel.
Sam Jr. is always on my channel.
I love you. Absolutely. So, yeah, what are we...
thank you. Well, before we get to that, thank, of course, all of you for joining us. But before we do anything else, as always, we do some housekeeping.
Spooky cleaning. It's just inverted.
Yes, and did this audio stuff to it too. So we've had a busy week on YouTube this week. Go over to youtube.com/ourreviewswillkillyou. We did the OrkU and Cinephile Man Cave, the most Halloween ever, part 1. Although that's one part of part 1. So
one part.
Isn't today part 2 the Horrorweening
part? No, this is the Halloweening. But anyway, we sat down with Cinephile Man Cave. I forget his name. Sorry, Mark. Sorry, Mark. I'm an asshole. But we talked about his favorite horror movies, a prequel as it was to what we have tonight, teaser. We also released another one, What is Invincible? We find out together. We watched a trailer for an Amazon series cartoon about superheroes. I still don't know what it's about. And neither does anyone else.
Nope.
So there's that movie. Also, Noob did a thing.
Yep.
So this is a thing.
It's a
you
thing.
should probably see.
I gave them gold and they turned it into coal.
We told it into amazingness.
Nope.
Yeah. So there's that video. And moving on from that, last night we did a Tremors special. We dug through the dirt. We went through Tremors. We talked about the movies, mostly the first one and the last one, and the docuseries on YouTube. But if you're a Tremors fan, and everyone is, you definitely want to watch that video there. And I took some time out this week to do an unboxing of the brand new iPhone 12 Pro.
You won't believe his reaction.
You won't believe my reaction. I can't believe my reaction.
He threw it in the trash.
I think Elizabeth Moss just joined our chat. What's happening?
Elizabeth Moss Jr.
Nope. Get the fuck out of here.
And Elizabeth Moss Jr. said it was a crazy video. I don't think she's talking about mine. She may have been talking about another one.
Oh my God.
She's in her Halloween costume.
Maybe the Invincibles video. And actually, we also got a voicemail. We're going to go ahead and pop that number up there on the screen for you to leave a message for yourself. But we did have somebody leave us a voicemail, so let's go ahead and listen to that real quick.
I think you should talk about it tonight. And tell Noob to take his costume off. He's scaring us.
I'll take my costume off right now.
Unfortunately, that's not his costume. That's just his actual face that is so very terrifying.
Do you want me to take my costume off? Is Rob in the chat?
Yes, yes.
No, Ron is. Yes, that is a message from the Stone Cold Killer himself.
Is he in the chat right now? Rob, do you want me to take my costume off?
Yes, you should take your costume off right now and scare us all even further. But there it is on the screen. 610-616-5255 is the OrkU voicemail. Call it, leave a message. We love hearing from you guys if you can't join us live on Friday nights. So, with all that out of the way, Noob, what are we doing tonight?
Hey, first off, you forgot our teaser for our upcoming crossover.
All right, fine. So let's do that too.
While you do that, I'm going to take my costume off.
Oh, God. He's going to unmask himself? Oh, my God. People are going to say, oh, God.
Oh, man, this is terrifying. Wow. It's almost like a mini sun was just released in that studio. How can you be so pale?
So gross. He just took his shirt off and
his gunt
is hanging out.
I don't know what's whiter, you or the wall behind you. This is terrifying.
Noob's face has been revealed. It is the face of a pale, ugly.
What are you doing? Let's go ahead and give you full screen so everyone can see that.
Nobody needs that. What are you doing? This is the worst thing you've ever done. Get away from me.
Noob stands around with no shirt on. The chat's going crazy. Noob.
Oh, you revealed his identity. You can see him.
Noob, do you shave your chest?
Zoom in.
Does Noob shave his chest?
I'm sure he needs a weed whacker.
That's interesting there. With Noob's shaved chest, now he's got his headphones on. Can you hear me? Noob shaves his chest apparently.
My nipples are extremely cold. There's a fan blowing them to icicles right now. Oh my God.
That was absolutely terrifying.
God, I'm just gonna.
But the last piece of housekeeping then is this week, today, Friday, Mandalorian Season 2 just started releasing. First episode is now available on Disney+. We are going to be doing a crossover with another channel on YouTube. We're going to be doing it weekly, mostly weekly, 3 weeks, 1 week off, 3 weeks on, 1 week off, whatever our schedule fits. But we'll be doing a crossover talking about Mandalorian Season 2 on a weekly basis with another channel.
Yes. Levels of Geek?
That gap there is because I don't have all the information there. Yes, Levels of Geek.
Yes, Levels of Geek. Alex from Levels of Geek is going to shove a whole lot of Mando goodness in our mouth. We're going to swallow it.
So that then is all of our housekeeping. Now, Noob, what are we up to tonight?
Well, I'm probably going to have hypothermia, so that's a thing. Next, we're going to talk about some scary news, I guess. So there is more murdering and hornets in my queen. Then there's
Where the queen?
Then a rat is going to eat my hole. And then there's my favorite kind of stripper, skeleton strippers, because I like them flat like prepubescent boys, which is much like a skeleton. And then we're going to go over a roundtable style of horror movies and what constitutes a horror movie, and we're going to tell stories of horror.
We're going to sit around the campfire and tell you some scary stories.
I hope there's a fire because I need to be warm.
We're going to sit around the social distancing fire and tell stories, so let's go ahead and get to it.
So scary.
Yeah. All right. Well, apparently, scientists captured 2 murder hornet queens in Washington state. apparently murder hornets are still a thing.
So as if this year couldn't get scarier,
yes,
they have officially captured in the wild
a nest
of murder hornets.
They're looking like the Michelin Men in outer space.
They look pretty amusing.
Well,
they are dressed.
They kind of need to be wearing these spacesuit looking things, which are super thick bee suits that I think are actually inflated as well, because the stingers on these things are like 5 inches long. Don't quote me on that.
Not. That's an exaggeration.
But because they do have oversized super stingers, they do, of course, need those spacesuits. Terrifying as it is, there's a couple of dead ones right there. They actually were able to catch some murder hornets while they were killing another hive of bees. They took these murder hornets, they tracked them, they put tags on them, and let them fly back to the nest. That's impressive in itself. And then in order to catch them, they saran wrap the tree. There, you can see them with the economy-size saran wrap roll you buy from Giant. They saran wrap the tree, vacuumed the thing out. It did not look like it was a
They look
short...
like stormtroopers.
It was
what
not
is going on here?
It was not a short and easy project there. You see from the picture there, it looks like E.T.'s nightmare there, nightmare fuel. Everyone's got red lights on in these spacesuits. Imagine walking into that at night.
Well, not to mention, they were looking for virgin queens.
Oh my God.
And yeah, so they went ahead, they got that, they vacuumed out the entire nest there. And you said that they did get 2 queens out of this.
Yes, they got myself and another, probably Sam Jr. And
2 big major queens.
We are in captivity, being studied for sex stuff. And
we know at least you're the virgin queen.
The latest study is how many pieces of candy corn can I fit up my ass. And it's a lot.
He's an idiot.
That much. They don't melt easily, though. I'll tell you.
Aren't they made of wax?
They they taste good coming out still. So it's like a little bit of chocolate coating. Wait, hold on. Facebook post, there was 85 hornets. That's a lot of hornets.
It's not that many hornets.
I mean, that's a good number of murder hornets.
I mean, I don't know what a normal mortar hornet hornet nest is. I think the more important thing was that they caught the queen, which it sounds like they did, thankfully. And now it's just a matter of making sure there's no other nest. But I mean, kudos to them. That was a issue, and now they caught them. So
with their spacesuits,
still don't know how they got over here though,
and their space technical gear.
I'm really not enjoying Sam Jr.'s fat shaming of me. He's telling me to put my shirt on. You're rude, Sam Jr., and you should take your shirt off, and then I will put my shirt on.
What if he puts his Elizabeth Moss costume on?
Yeah, just wear Elizabeth Moss's face, and then that will get me very soft, and I'll put on a shirt.
So what's next?
Well, apparently in New York, you can go into a rat hole, which is a sinkhole filled with rats. And that
rat chasm.
That sounds worse than murder hornets, honestly. Like I don't know if I would want to live.
Then there's this poor guy. So we got video of this. So let's go ahead and watch.
There's a video of it.
There's video.
Oh my God! He fell into a rat hole.
And then just rats immediately just started eating his booty.
So the poor guy, his face got completely banged up. I think like he busted his arm or something. And they said when he was down inside the hole, he was afraid to talk or scream for fear that the rats would actually get into his mouth. He was covered with that many New York rats.
Oh my God.
Apparently he was a 33-year-old man. He's literally just standing there like on his iPhone, not paying attention.
Did anyone
and it just literally just falls through the ground.
He was
next to a small child and a lady.
Yeah, he was walking up to the bus stop. There is a little bit before this where you see him walk up to the bus stop, and there he is just kind of minding his own business. He takes a step backwards and he disappears.
Goodbye.
Does anyone? I don't even see anyone have a reaction to him falling.
No, it's because he lives in New York. People are just like, "Oh, that man's dead."
Yeah, he's dead. Let's move on. There's a guy walking next to him with a baby stroller. Just passes by the hole, like, "Well, nothing I can do for you here. You're on your own."
Although it is funny because in the video, it seems like there's a delay before he fully sinks. Like he tries to catch himself.
He catches his arm. He catches himself with his arm,
yeah,
and then he just falls into the hole.
Yeah,
just goes
and he's
right
gone.
In. That's where his arm gets mostly screwed up there, and that's so painful when something like that happens.
Have you fallen down a manhole before, Scott?
I have actually.
Have you really?
Were you covered with rats?
No, I was not covered with rats. It was in Philadelphia. We got cockroaches instead.
Oh dear God!
Even better.
Was there used condoms down there?
A lot of them.
Oh dear.
I have horror stories from my days working in an electrical company in the city. Another day, perhaps. Not today.
That's too much horror.
Pennywise wasn't down there to molest you?
No. That was my foreman was. He was very touchy.
Also dressed like a clown.
But a soft touch. This next story I think is kind of weird. So why don't we go ahead and classify this under Orc Tales?
Sure.
Ghost plane. Everything explodes on Scott's channels.
So hot.
Sam Jr. says, I met the Ninja Turtles. I did, actually. I had turtle soup. It was delicious.
So your story is something to do with
strippers of skeleton figures.
A homeowner association has a bone to pick.
Yeah. Oh my god, that looks like a trash panda.
That does look like a trash panda.
So apparently Helloween ghouls order homeowner to dismantle skeleton strip club display. That's neat. So a homeowner association has a bone to pick, and we're going to dead name them. Angela Nava of Richmond, Texas has received the proverbial eye of
Oh my
Newt.
god, they are really strippers. They're totally skeletons doing stripper poses.
Oh my god, that's flexible.
They are very flexible skeletons.
They probably do hot yoga. And so apparently they, as you can see if you're watching on YouTube, there is some promiscuous poses there and flavorful colored hair. And her spooky erotic version of a non-flesh palace called the Candy Shop, replete with bone-thin dancers Candy and teal-wigged Vanessa, oh, that's a cute name, is a hoot with most of her neighbors, but her homeowner association doesn't believe it deserves a chance to remain up.
They don't think they should stay up?
No.
Well, look at that split they're
up.
doing. There's one doing a split.
I'm definitely up right now.
You know what? I think if you have a problem with this Halloween display, you just have problems. You should probably see a shrink or something. Pole dancing is a competition. It's an exercise. It's a workout. It doesn't necessarily mean strippers. If this is the first thing that goes to your mind, then you are a perverted individual and you should seek help. Considering the fact that Halloween was right around the corner when this story popped out, the homeowner said that she was probably just going to leave everything up until Halloween and to hell with the homeowners association.
Shouldn't she leave it up until Thanksgiving?
No. It's immediately Christmas after October 31st.
Yeah, there is no more Thanksgiving. It's November 1st is Christmas.
Canceled.
Yeah, I'm already ready and locked and loaded to watch the latest rom-com Christmas movie on Netflix, Holiday. It's gonna be adorable.
God.
I'm gonna love it.
So I guess we're done.
Yeah, it's gonna be a short news story since we have 18 million horror movies to talk about.
Very quick news, and we're through that already. So let's head over to what is technically a review section.
So cold.
What's your something scary?
Dummy.
We talk about it right
So,
all right.
Scott left to his own devices.
I know,
Well,
right? I did. I know. I forgot all the sound effects here. This one's for you, Zay.
Tonight, you.
So
Apparently, Unboxing just announced, because he has news from everywhere, WandaVision is actually getting released in November, so maybe November isn't useless after all.
So, Noob, are you going to be able to lead us into this segment, or is someone else going to have to explain exactly what we're doing here?
So there are movies. I believe they are Halloween themed, and some of them are spooky. And I think we have lists.
Mostly not yours.
We have lists of those movies, and we're supposed to tell stories about how each one led to a sexual proclivity with a relative.
None of your information helps me.
We're not supposed to do the last part.
So this part stemmed off of an article written by Forbes that said what the scariest movie was, and they rated it according to heartbeat. Put heart sensors on people, made them watch scary movies, and whatever had the highest heartbeat is what they classified as the scariest movie of all time. Sinister, I believe, was the one that topped their list, correct?
Indeed, it was. Yes, it registered the highest average beat per minute at 86.
So that is what led into this conversation here, where I summarized that Heartbeat does not classify what it's technically a scary movie. A scary movie is something that sticks with you and actually terrifies you, keeps you awake after you've watched it, and sticks with you long after you've seen the movie. Heartbeat isn't necessarily what's going to make that thing. I mean, my heartbeat goes up faster when I'm watching porn than it does when I'm watching scary movies. I wouldn't classify Pornhub as horror.
Some of it can be horror.
Some of it is. If you've been on Pornhub lately, yes, actually, some of it is horror. So I believe
the double gaping section. It's definitely scary.
So I do believe we're going to round table here. Are we going to randomly draw straws to see who goes first?
Sure. Hopefully it's not me because I need to put my shirt on before my nipples fall off.
It looks like Noob, you've drawn the short straw. You're going first.
Motherfucker. All right. Well, listen, it's very easy to know what the best...
Hold on, can I guess what his top 5 is?
Sure.
I'm just going to guess.
All right, go ahead. Yes.
Okay, here we go. It's not Shirtless Noob the movie.
No.
And it is not Noob Goes Shopping on Black Friday the movie. Those are all... That might be a good video, though.
The Noobening, nipples gone wrong.
What about... I'm going to guess it's Halloween 1.
Uh-huh. Which Halloween 1, though?
Both Halloween ones.
Nope.
Yes, the 2018 one.
That's a Halloween 2, technically.
All of the Halloween ones.
Uh-huh.
Halloween 2.
Uh-huh.
Both of the Halloween 2s, even the one you haven't seen yet.
Uh-huh. There's actually already 2 Halloween 2s.
And then Chucky.
Fuck, I forgot about Chucky. Can I make an edit, Scott?
Nope. Too late. Pick your first.
I knew you forgot about Chucky.
There you go.
Fuck.
Noob's first movie is
Halloween. 1978, though.
The old school
The good
one.
shit. Yes.
Directed by the legendary John Carpenter.
Yeah, oh my god.
Starring
Jamie Lee Curtis,
who you also seem to think is attractive at 89 years old,
and
in the 2018.
Donald Sutherland. No, wait, not Donald Sutherland. Donald Pleasant.
Donald Pleasant as the good doctor.
Donald Pleasance? Donald Pleasant. Let me Google that. He's definitely dead by now. But
what about this movie made you... When was the first time you saw this movie?
Donald Pleasance. Let me see. How old am I? I'm 29. I probably saw this when I was 4 years old. So
when you were 40.
1995.
So you saw it in 1978 because you are 49 years old.
I did, yes. And it's a first off, it's every... You could Google top 10 horror movie lists and look at 100 of them. This is going to be on all 100. It wasn't
on the Netflix one.
It's going to be all...
It wasn't on the Rotten Tomatoes one.
Oh, really?
No.
Oh, really?
No, the original.
Oh, really? Hold on.
1, 2,
3, 4, 5, and number 7.
Oh, it's number 7.
It is number 7. So, first off, it's a slasher film, so obviously it's amazing. And it is one of the few campy slasher movies that had no budget that was effectively creepy and scary. Because a giant boogeyman with a knife could happen. He's a little unkillable, so that's where it kind of breaks the realm of reality here. But the heavy breathing in a mask, that's hot, first off. And I don't know, he's just going after a girl that doesn't show boobs. Like, you want more. You want to just keep going. I want to see Jamie Curtis's boobs.
You can in like a 50,000.
No, I want to see it in Halloween though. Maybe Halloween 2 when she's like 67 years old doing
I thought she was like
a Dannon commercial or an Activia commercial.
Activia.
So did this movie stick with you afterwards because it scared you, or because you wanted to see Jamie Lee Curtis more?
A little bit of both.
Every time he hears the music, he craps himself a little bit.
No, the music did fuck with me at the end because my uncle used to always play the music when I stayed over his house. This is sounding really sexual, and it's not. This is an actual story.
He used to hunt. He used to put a mask on and hunt you throughout his house.
Yes, while playing the music as I was a little kid.
And he would tell you that his butcher knife was...
It's okay if the knife goes in certain places, is what he said.
Mm-hmm. But what's weird is you were shirtless at the time, but he was pantless.
You know, that he said it brought balance to the force, and I just kind of went with it. I was very young, very ripe, and suggestionable.
All right, so then I don't. It's not my top 10.
The theme song is iconic. I love the theme song better than anything. So the score of this movie is what makes it in my top 10.
And that we will give you that is as soon as you hear that Halloween theme song, automatically know exactly what it is. That is something that has stuck throughout the times. The remakes of that song have sucked. many times, but at least the original one is very iconic. So we will give you that much, if nothing else. Z, you are up.
First off, I need to make a quick comment. Fuck you, Unboxing. Noob will never be replaced. But I will put a shirt on.
Oh, wait, that's Jason. Which is just as replaceable as Michael Myers. I do think that first movie is a classic, but not in my top 10 even. So, what are you doing? I will fucking hit you right in the...
Noob is in process of trying to put his shirt back on, has lost his pants.
You're gonna get a thing in your throat.
He may have just gotten ball slapped by Z.
With a pen.
So, what is your selection, Z?
I'm gonna, and these are no particular order for myself. I'm gonna go with an oldie but a goodie, and I don't remember exactly what year this was. I think it was 1981, but it is the movie Chud, C-H-U-D, Chud. So for anybody who knows that movie at all, I'll give you a brief synopsis. It's very much a movie about New York City in the late 70s, where basically people just randomly disappear off the street and there's pollution everywhere. It's a great moment in time because it captures that like really shabby.
What the fuck is this?
That really like scary New York City that people used to talk about, where Times Square was full of like junkies and porno movie theaters and things like that. And Ron's got an excellent one. The thing, that one's so good. But that would be like if I had number one all time, that would be that.
1984.
But these ones are specifically about something that happened to me as a child. When I saw this.
So let's do this. Z. Why don't you talk about your childhood story that involved chuds, and as we transition from selection to selection, we'll jump over to the chat real fast and see what suggestions they come up with.
All right. So anyway, this movie is about people start disappearing. They don't know why they're disappearing, and they eventually put it together that Chud, even though technically it doesn't stand for what people think it stands for. It stands for, in the movie, containment, hazardous, urban disposal. But what it ends up standing for is cannibalistic, humanoid, underground dwellers. So these creepy monster things just start breaking into people's homes and they just like abduct people and drag them back into the sewer and eat them. And the thing about it that scared me to death was that they could just break into your house at any time. In fact, I think in one of the movies, or this particular one, they dig a hole behind someone's washer or dryer in the basement, because at the time I had a washer and dryer in my basement. I was a very small child, and as soon as I would hear that sound of the dryer running, the thumping through the middle of the night, I always felt like there was a chud gonna come up through the basement and come up and eat me, and it paralyzed me for years and years and years, and very scary to me. Now, upon rewatching it, it is a little bit it's a little overly long, overly drawn out. It's a little boring, but as a small child, it was one of the scariest things I ever saw. As you can see in the image, the creatures are pretty horrific looking, and
it does look like a nice thick chud.
Yes,
and they were practical effects. I'm assuming this was an older film.
All practical. Yep.
This came out after Halloween. This is in the 80s.
Yes, it's one of your 80s like splatter horror movies,
but not a slasher.
No, slashers are suck.
Not really.
So that's my story, Scott, and I'm sticking to it.
I like it. Into the chat real fast. Sam Jr., I can't tell if you're a comedian or being serious, because he does list Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Shining, Psycho, but then he says Cats, which I guess that could be considered a horror movie, of course. Ron Schrader says Candyman. That's one I forgot about as we're making our list. He also said The Thing, which was mentioned earlier. I'm going to take a different turn, and I'm going to say Gumby was my most... Actually, no, it wasn't, but Gumby was absolutely terrifying. There was an episode that scared the hell out of me as a small child, gave me nightmares, but that's another story for another day. Instead, I'm going to go with what Ron Schrader said earlier, and I'm going to go with the original. Where's my image?
Thing.
Exorcist.
Nope.
Oh, the original Exorcist.
Original Exorcist. I can't find the image, so we're going to jump over to here real fast. 1973, a 12-year-old girl is possessed by a mysterious entity. Her mother seeks the help of two priests to save her. Directed by William Franklin, starring Ellen Burst, Max von Sydow, Linda Blair. Of course, we heard her name many more times. This, I think, was just your quintessential horror movie. It was groundbreaking. It had scenes depicted that drove people insane. It caused riots almost. And this was back in the day when I was still religious, not like anymore. When I went to Catholic church, possession could be a scary thing. But just the imagery and the special effects in this movie with the vomit and the spinning head and everything else, it was enough to leave a lasting impression that absolutely stuck with me for years, to the point that when I went to the Exorcist haunted house in California many years later, it still was my scariest haunted house just because it reinstilled those old feelings growing up. So when you talk about a movie that sticks with you, this is absolutely a movie that stuck with me through the ages.
So it's what's interesting to me is people always have very similar stories to your Scott, where it's one of those movies that scarred you as a kid and just absolutely creeped people out. And like you said, there were virtual riots because of it. People were really, really freaked out by this movie. I did not see this movie until I was an adult, and I can appreciate it for what it was at the time. Well, I definitely think it was unsettling and creepy, especially what they were doing to Linda Blair as a child.
That's Linda Blair.
Yes. I thought that was pretty intense. I didn't find it scary, but I do appreciate it for what it is, the groundbreaking movie that it was. But I did not necessarily find it scary, but obviously I was an adult.
I think the best depiction of The Exorcist was in Scary Movie 2 with James Woods, where he plays the priest, and I'm pretty sure he ends up having sex with the possessed girl.
I think that, yes.
And he's like taking a real big shit with a lot of flies, and that stuck with me.
I mean, they basically just rip off the movie for the most part. Like they like kind of sum up the whole movie, but obviously it's had a huge cultural impact.
I don't honestly remember the ending to this. Does she get saved?
That's a good question.
I actually
don't remember.
I honestly don't remember either. And what's also interesting is whenever you have a list when it comes to the scariest horror movies, this one's always number one.
Yes, it is always number one.
I
think the fact that there was a child, like a real child involved, and Linda Blair actually got hurt during the filming of this.
From like bending so much?
Yeah, they had like the contraptions that they used to like float her up, and they dropped her, or like the harnesses like hurt her back really bad. Like it's pretty unfortunate what happened to her there. And yes, at the very end, the main priest who was trying to save her dies. I think he takes the possession on himself, and then he kills himself. But I'm pretty sure she's saved. But then there's like 2 or 3 more sequels. So, yeah. Why don't we go to the next one?
Noob, what is your next choice?
All right, this might be a little off the cuff here, but I know I did Halloween, which was pretty on the nose. So for my next one, I'm doing Halloween 2018.
Of course, as I projected.
The sequel / reboot to the best horror movie of all time, Halloween. Also aptly named Halloween.
So Halloween 2, but really Halloween 1.
Yes. A reboot / remake. And it honestly is almost a recreation of the first movie, and they take all of the tropes from the first movie and turn them on its head, which is funny. I like that.
Oh, so it's mostly funny.
Yeah, I don't find any of these movies scary at all. I find them creepy.
Never seen a horror movie.
I love the theme song again. And then this one, what I do like about this is, and even Rob Zombie's version for Halloween, they made Michael Myers a little more, I guess, aggressive and violent. Whereas in the original 1978 one, he was basically a very stoic, slow-moving, walked, stabbed you, and then left. This one, this dude actually moves a little quicker. He has some aggression. He like shows a little bit of anger. The first movie, it was just like he's there. I like when he's a lot more violent, which this shows.
So basically there's no reason why you think that this is one of the classic scary movies and why it actually scares people.
Anything scary.
You've never seen a scary movie ever.
First off,
not
what I will
one
say,
of these movies any of the movies that most of the chat have seen, you've never seen.
The Exorcist is not scary. What about that is scary?
Have you ever seen it?
Yes.
When?
I don't know. When I was younger.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, Noob. Your masculinity does not need to be reinforced in this room. We know that you have none. Trying to say that I never got scared because I'm the bravest of them all, nobody believes that. You're allowed
to
saying
you don't cry at movies.
I don't cry. Well,
Noob, you're allowed to open up in this room. This is a safe place for you.
Is this a safe place?
You can cry if you need to. You can. You can open up with us, Noob. You're allowed.
I'm just saying, like if I had that closet thing, like when the first movie happened with the closet, and they used this closet scene again, which is the picture you saw, like that would freak me out if I saw a closet that was partly open.
Have you ever seen Closet Monster?
I have not seen Closet
That was
Monster.
one that was on my list that I forgot to.
So that is something that got you. It did actually affect you in real life, where something's in that closet. So
yes.
and that's what we're going for. This is what we're calling scary movies. This is what we're classifying as. Sam Jr. continues on, not sure whether or not. Human Centipede, I guess, is a horror movie.
It's torture porn.
Okay. Horror. And then Cosby Show, it was, of course, terrifying.
It's kind of torture porn.
Silence of the Lambs is not a horror movie.
It's technically a horror movie.
Technically, it's a horror movie. There are jump scares, and it's cannibalism, which, I mean, there's things in there that's supposed to scare you. And, of course, Jay Bird was scared by Barney.
Oh, jeez. So
you're up next.
I am up next. Okay, let's see here. I'll go to another one from my past. Let's go with Poltergeist. Now, Poltergeist today might not be that scary for people, but what I did ask Scott was what we did was we pulled out the scariest scenes from the movie or something about the movie that horrified me. And at the time, I don't know when this came out, the original Poltergeist.
Not 2015.
No, there was a remake of it. Poltergeist.
1982.
1982. So, Craig T. Nelson, one of the stars of it. It's actually, it does hold up if you watch it now. It's just, I don't know if it's as scary as people remember it. Like I said, when I was a child, it was much scarier. I was actually in I lived in a bunk bed room with my brother at the time. And we had a big gnarly ass tree that was right outside our window that would occasionally scrape against the window. And after I saw this movie, I was perpetually petrified by the petrified wood outside my window. And there's a scene in the movie. Essentially, the movie is these people move into a house and they find out that the house is possessed by poltergeists, which take the forms of various things that they're scared of, whether it be this tree that scared this kid or their dolls that scared them, and they would mess with different things in the house, like stacking things. And then obviously people remember the scene with the little girl, and they might not know what static is anymore. Like static on a television set doesn't play the same way it used to, but anytime you heard that static, you knew poltergeists were coming. And right before the tree scene, there's static, and it still freaks me out to this day when I see a gnarly tree through a window that I think is going to come through the window and smash it, and maybe eat me.
And this is a beautiful thing about some of these horror movies. It really depends on where you grew up, what is in your life. I think a lot of people thought that The Hills Have Eyes was a terrifying movie.
Because they're afraid of being raped?
But I don't live in the desert, so I don't really have a reason to be scared of the mutants in The Hills Have Eyes. So that one wouldn't really affect me. Back to the chat, we've got Tales from the Hood. That was the Ice Cube movie, wasn't it?
Not DMX.
No, was it DMX or
no, it's dog in that?
It was I forget who it was, but that was a horror movie.
It was Biggie.
It was not Biggie.
It was Biggie with the AIDS. He got big AIDS in the movie.
Jaws was classified as a horror movie. People did not go into the water after that one, and they still have viewings where people sit out in large lakes and inner tubes and watch Jaws, which I don't want to do that.
I wouldn't want to do that either.
Terrifying and straight. Of course,
I could outswim a shark, so that doesn't matter to me.
I would say one thing I want to say about Jaws is I had an above-ground pool at one point, and I could not swim in my above-ground pool
Because you can't swim.
because of Jaws.
Just because of Jaws. And you're not the only one. It affected a lot of people because of that, because Jaws was... And I mean, even the shark, and you look at it now and you consider it laughable now, but back in the day, it was absolutely groundbreaking, another groundbreaking. I think this is also what makes a good classic horror movie, and what makes a proper one is when it's something that's groundbreaking. And Bruce the Shark, as much of a nightmare as it was, and gave Spielberg nightmares long after that movie was done, absolutely stuck with a lot of people for a very long time.
Well, what is something that sticks in you for a long time, Scott?
This one stuck with me for a while, but the technology finally caught up with us and eliminated this fear. But from 2002, we have The Ring.
Yes, The Ring.
A journalist.
I think you stole one of Z's.
A journalist must investigate a mysterious videotape which seems to cause the death of anyone 1 week to the day after they view it. It's directed by Gore Verbinski, starring Naomi Watts, Martin Henderson, and Brian Cox. This is another one where I don't think kids today will get The Ring. Not like we do, because with our TVs, when we lost a signal, we got that fuzzy screen, the snow. I still use it now and then when I do my effects, even though it doesn't really play anymore. You don't get snow on TVs anymore. That's an old thing. But when snow was a normal thing on your TVs, The Ring absolutely impacted you. And the one jump scare that got me and still will get me is when she comes out of the TV and she does that jump from across the room and appears in front of the guy in that split second. Every time will still get me. But like I said, technology's changed. The TV snow is no longer a thing. The Ring's not as impactful as it was back in the day. But as we said earlier, it's something you grew up with and a sign of the times. The Ring absolutely was a great, great horror movie.
Not the original Japanese Ring.
Not Ringu. No, I've seen Ringu. I actually think the Gore Verbinski one is much more. It's filmed a little bit better, like a little more stylistic. It's a little less nihilistic, but that was going to be on my list just because I remember seeing that and I saw it in this room with someone else, and we were like in this really claustrophobic tiny room. It was raining and really dark, and it just scared both of us. It was very like intense because that movie is really good at building. It's got a really good ticking time clock sense to it, and it has a lot of with all this scary imagery, very foreboding nature to it that's very oppressive and a lot of nice tension.
So, yes, and The Ring, I know for a lot of people, and when you go to horror movies and the list, The Ring makes it on a regular basis as well.
It was VHS in the first one, right? It was the unwound VHS.
Correct. It was a VHS tape
which was even old for then. Like, it was interesting because
DVDs were out by then.
Yeah, like she didn't have a VHS player in the actual in the movie itself. She had to find one that could play it because she didn't have a VHS tape. She found it in this old. They went to this cabin where they had an old VHS player, so it was like already outdated at the time, but even more so now.
And of course, if you were anywhere near a well, you weren't going anywhere near that effing thing.
No more wells.
Back in the chat, we have Sam Jr. is mentioning the Blair Witch Project. It was too shaky. I couldn't stand that. It scared people, but it made me vomit just from the movement in that effing camera.
What was great about that movie, though, is if you can't recapture what happened when it came out. People genuinely thought that movie was real, that was actual found footage. Because they played it up like it was. They had video, like they had a website, all sorts of things devoted to pushing the narrative that was a real found footage. So that's a great one. I see Sam Jr. said Alien.
Let's see. We have Saw. Saw we talked about before. That's just more of a gore fest. I don't want to see it as a horror movie, but more just like a gore fest. Jay Bird says Labyrinth. A couple times he mentions it. Labyrinth was a classic, of course.
That one's crazy because it's recommended for kids. Like I think it's rated like.
No, it should not be.
No,
and Bert says before all your times. No, it was not. It was definitely a mind fuck. Sam Jr. says Gremlins, and then Schrader says the Amityville Horror, which
it's Ryan Reynolds, the Ryan Reynolds Amityville Horror,
the original.
That man shirtless is always good.
Which that house is actually around the corner from us. I forget if it's still standing or not, but
I don't think
Amityville
so.
Horror House. It's not near you.
It's not Amityville Horror.
No,
isn't that like
it's
Massachusetts
in
or something?
Amityville, yes, it's not in your town.
Then what house is near us?
It's a crack den.
Yes.
Okay, so Noob, you're up.
Shut him up.
The crack. What?
I said that. Shut him up real quick.
All right then.
Well, all right
the
then.
Crackville Horror.
The Crackville Horror.
My next one is Scream.
Scream, yet another slasher.
A movie that did not make me scream, but
of impotence.
It's the most realistic horror movie, I would say, out of everything.
So real.
Which is good and bad, because also that opening scene was pretty fucking creepy.
I don't know.
Drew Barrymore. Barrymore.
I don't know if Noob really got the concept of what we're trying to do tonight.
I am not human.
He's never seen he's never seen horror movies when he was a kid.
I don't feel fear. Oh no, I watched. Well, you know how I don't know how I didn't put Chucky on the list, because Chucky actually fucked me up. I was afraid of dolls for a while when I watched Chucky, the entire series, as like I was a young kid.
If you thought Chucky was scary, just wait until you see my next selection.
Oh Jesus.
Oh yes, that'll scare the crap out of him.
But Scream was the one where you get prank phone calls when you're home alone. That would fuck you up because people.
No one answers their phones anymore, though. It's kind of dated.
Not anymore, but back then you would have a house phone.
Yeah, so you get prank voicemails.
Yeah,
like the Jerky Boys.
Exactly.
So scary, those Jerky Boys.
I love Jerky Boys.
So what was scary about this?
Nothing really was scary. I thought it was a great horror movie and a slasher, but the one aspect of it that fucked with me was the prank phone calls, because people would prank phone call me when they knew I was home alone as a 10-year-old boy.
They used to prank phone calls.
It's because everyone in Noob's neighborhood hated him and just did not want to be his friends.
Wanted friends.
Wasn't this also like the beginning of the teen horror genre?
Scream, to me, horror had gone into a really bad place and was not a popular genre at all. And Scream single-handedly revitalized the horror movie industry. I think all of the splatter movies through the 80s really, really got people, like, you know how it went. You would start to see, Jason X in space and Freddy Krueger underground, and it just horror became a mockery of itself. And then Wes Craven was like, no, I'm going to go back to the standard a slasher flick, but I'm going to put a little bit of a different spin on it
and make it meta.
He did it, made it meta, and he did a really good job with it. And it's a classic. It's not one of my favorites, but it's a classic for sure. I appreciate what it did for the horror genre, for sure.
Yeah, it did. And once again, a groundbreaker, something that changed the scene altogether. Back into our chat, we have Sam Jr. mentions Carrie. Bootleg says Final Destination, but just the original, not the sequels.
Yeah, the first one is a good one.
Jay Bird is shaking his head at Noob selecting Scream. And then he said Clowns from Outer Space.
Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Yes. And if you saw that as a kid, that 100% messed with you.
Fucked you up. I think that is what caused the clown fear in a lot of people. Was that
and It, for sure. If you watched the It movie, the It television movie, because the part of it is it was available for television, and that was so freaking crazy and weird and such a great performance. And then if you saw Killer Clowns from Outer Space, that as a weekend movie where people were literally turning humans into cotton candy and then sucking them out with a straw, yeah. That was pretty freaky. Yep, I definitely wouldn't go anywhere near cotton candy after that.
Oh boy.
Yep. And then we got
Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
No, I don't think so.
No, you're such a degenerate.
Oh my
and
God.
Then we have Pet Cemetery, The Grudge, People Under the Stairs. All great, fantastic movie selections, guys. Keep them coming. I love it. But next, Z, what is your next?
Okay, I'm going to stay with the kid one, and this one might make people laugh a little bit, but it's still, I think, a goodie. It's The Pit. Now, this is something that
Teddy.
I'm...
What the fuck is this?
That's an alternate that's a foreign release, but I felt like that image captures the quality of what the movie is about.
Not from 2010.
No, not from 2010.
The Pit and the Pendulum?
1981. Oh. Thank you, sir.
Sammy Snyder. Snyders.
So this is one of those movies that, so when I was a small child, I used to watch the Sunday night movie or the Sunday movie, the premiere, and I watched everything from the original Blob to The Pit to every horror movie you could think of. I've seen all of them, basically. There's very few horror movies I haven't seen.
Also used to dig a lot of holes, which was a weird thing to do as a small child, but hey, everyone needed a hobby.
The deeper, the better. And when I was watching these movies, I would often, they would stick with you. But the problem was I couldn't remember what they were. I couldn't remember the titles, and most of them hadn't been converted to DVD. So I had to go and find VHS copies of these movies. And this is one of those movies that it took me about 10 years to find it. It's basically it's about a young boy who is like one of the opening scenes. He has a babysitter and he's like staring intently at her nipple. Like it's just one of the craziest movies you've ever seen. Basically, he's a small kid who finds a hole in his backyard. In the hole in the woods in his backyard, his evil teddy bear tells him to start feeding the monsters that live in the hole. And
that's terrifying.
He just starts, instead of, they don't like meat that much. They like live meat. So he starts chucking people in there, and it just gets crazier.
How does a small child chuck human beings?
He tells them, hey, take a look at my hole. And then he pushes you in from behind, and you just trip and fall in the hole.
Hey, check it out. I got this hole over here. You want to come check it out? I've been digging it for a while. It's really deep.
Years. They were called Trolologs, the monsters at the bottom of the pit. And his evil teddy used to give me nightmares.
Was it a Teddy Ruxpin?
It was not a talking teddy. It was just a teddy.
Oh.
So if you go back to that other image there, Scott, of the kid pushing the old lady, like he starts pushing people he doesn't like in town into the hole, and then it just gets out of control. And it's just one of those crazy, like, the special effects aren't great, but it's just one of those campy, crazy movies.
This movie
that I
sounds
loved.
fucking hilarious. Honestly, I kind of want to watch it.
It's a drinking game. Every time something ridiculous happens, you take a drink. And I'm a big fan of collecting movies like this and Q the Winged Serpent. And there's a couple other movies out there that I like.
Do you watch the people get eaten?
Yeah, they get eaten for sure.
Like they show them get eaten?
They get torn apart by the monsters at the bottom. Yeah,
and they show it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Scott, what?
Hey guys,
let's go to the hole. Let's go before we leave the hole. Let's visit the chat one more time. Jay Bird says Beetlejuice.
That's not scary. I mean, if you're a little kid and you saw it, maybe you were like expected. Like the fact that it dealt so matter-of-factly with death, I think was kind of interesting, and the fact that you'd see these crazy Tim Burton characters like the Shrunken Head Man and the woman who was eaten by the shark and all that other stuff, where you're like, well, that's really grotesque, but I wouldn't exactly call it horror.
And I'd say the worm, Jay Bird saying the worm was the scariest part. I think the Tremors were scarier. Sam Jr. saying Children of the Corn. That's one I forgot about. That almost could have made my list. I do like my list. Children of the Corn was a good one, though. And Ron Schrade is trying to summon Freddy, of course, singing the song 1, 2.
That's a good one. That's a good slasher.
Freddy's coming for you. It is a good slasher, and one that messed with your nightmares, which is something that you should have tried for, Noob. Instead, you failed.
I don't have nightmares. I have Noobmares.
I do have one here, and it is Puppet Master from 1989. Psychics find themselves plotted against by a former colleague who commits suicide after discovering animated, murderous puppets. I saw this as a young child. I saw it at my buddy's house. He thought it was funny. You
were like, no.
This one screwed me up. This drill head dude that you see the gif of here as he runs and kills this woman as she's looking under the bed. There was another character, and it was a gif I found earlier that I wasn't able to steal, but the one doll was belching leeches
Yeah, that was the one I was gonna say that probably messed with you. It like literally would vomit leeches out onto you.
Yeah, and this one puppet, she was vomiting leeches onto her victims, and of course the hook, the guy, the red coat,
the white coat blade guy.
This is one that messed with me for a very long time, and
these are just tiny puppets, though, right, Scott?
But you would think they make jokes about it in the movie that these are harmless puppets, but they're kind of perverse looking.
Yeah.
But then the puppets come to life and start murdering people.
But they're tiny puppets.
Except, what would you do if one vomited leeches in your mouth?
Well, okay, maybe I wouldn't let it get close to my mouth and vomit leeches.
Well, the characters were tied down while they were getting the leeches dropped onto them and into their mouths. The other one had knives and was actually attacking people with knives. This is what Chucky could have been if it was better.
Yeah, but Chucky's at least a bigger doll. Oh, he's not really bigger. Chucky looked like he could fuck those puppets up.
No, because these puppets had weapons
built
into them.
Built-in weapons.
Drill head.
And it was a combination of the puppets too. It wasn't just the one. It was, they got teamed up on. I mean,
yeah, they worked together as a team.
And it was realistic. It was the puppets were much more like visceral, and just the way they looked just felt more realistic and just more creepy and terrifying than Chucky ever was.
So if I break into your house and just line your bedroom with puppets and you wake up, what would you do?
I would probably murder you.
They'd have to be the right puppets.
But I wouldn't be here. The puppets would be.
Noob, I would be murdering you for breaking into my house.
Oh, okay.
So just to clarify, that was directed by David Schmalier, starring Paul Le Mat, William Hickey, and Irene Miracle.
It's a good one. I remember that one from being a kid.
It looks hilarious. I would watch it. It looks kind of funny.
Yeah. Well, that's what's great about these is you go back and watch them and they're not.
Yeah,
not horrifying.
Going back and watch that now, it probably would not affect me as much as that would. But yeah, back in the day, that definitely was one that kept me awake at night, which is what a good horror movie is supposed to do. Back into the chat, we have The Fly, we have Scooby-Doo, we have Goosebumps. The books were fantastic. They were horror, but they were made for kids. Annabelle, The Lost Boys, Are You Afraid of the Dark, the TV show. Ron Schrade had a suggestion that we don't want to spoil just yet. Noob, you're up.
All right, so this is a heavy hitter right here. This one has immensely affected me as a young child, and it's Halloween Town. Yes. What is it? Nope. Where is it?
Don't even know what Halloween Town is.
I do. It's a Disney Channel movie.
Oh my God.
Love it. Watch it every Halloween. And what this really did was got a restraining order, because I used to just go. I was young, impressionable. I was really looking for an elder presence in my life, mainly a grandmother. So I would just run around after seeing this movie, hoping that one of these grandmothers would take me away and take me to Halloween Town, and they never would. And I just kept getting hit in the head with purses. And I had a concussion, and I had to be held out of school for 2 weeks. All the children mocked me because my own grandmother wouldn't even hug me. And so then I just sit at home eating candy every Halloween, watching Halloween Town, hoping that I could maybe one day be taken by an elderly woman.
He's an idiot!
All right, then.
So did you actually get assolted by an old woman?
None of that happened.
Okay, well, that's why this is dumb, and we're going to move on to the next one.
We're moving on to the next one. Back in the chat, we have Christine is another good one. Christine was...
Oh, what?
Wow. I forget which one that is.
Christine's the murderous car.
Yes.
Oh, my God. Like Herbie,
King,
Fully Loaded?
Stephen King one, where the car murders people?
I thought it was, but for a second, I wasn't absolutely sure.
Murder Herbie.
So,
yes, essentially.
Z, you're up.
All right, I'm going to take... This is my final, childhood one. And I actually made a quick change. Because, again, these are no particular order. And they're also not particularly... They're not my top 10 best-made movies ever. But it's actually Creepshow 2, but more specifically, The Raft. Now, Creepshow, if you know anything about it, was actually written by George A. Romero and Stephen King working together to write essentially anthologies. The first one had Ted Danson in it, and it was just like a bunch of short stories that were pretty horrific. But this one particular episode of Creepshow 2, or not episode, but part of the anthology, just it haunted me. So it's kind of your typical story of like kids going to go have fun out by their swimming hole, and there's one of those. If you've ever seen a lake where they have like a chain down raft in the middle of it, like wooden boards that are propped up by floating barrels, and they decide to have some teenage fun and go make out on top of this thing. And when they get out there, this black mass in the water approaches them, and they soon realize the horror of what's going to happen as they're slowly dissolved one by one by this.
Flesh eats them.
Flesh eating.
I remember this one. I completely forgot about this movie. I remember it now. That was I agree with you. This was a good one.
It's pretty horrific too, because there's one point where like there's two sets of couples. And the one kid wants to be with this one girl, and their two other friends have already been murdered, I think, by this black goo. And every time they jump in the water, it comes and gets them. Well, they fall asleep over on the black goo, and he starts to like make out with her, and then he realizes that the goo actually seeped up through the boards and was eating her face while he was trying to make out with her. And then
that's disgusting.
Yeah, it was pretty horrifying. And the one thing that stuck with me as a kid, which didn't stick, it was, I guess, the first time I had been exposed to such like nihilism, because this is a little bit of a spoiler, but nobody makes it out of there alive. And it's based on a Stephen King short story. And it was just so horrific how these people died. And the thing that I found out that I thought about too was they didn't die for any particular reason. It's not like they had Michael Myers has a grudge on somebody, or Jason, like you killed Jason's mom, or you invaded his space, or whatever you did. Like this thing literally just killed them for no reason. It was just an existing organism or pollution, or who knows what it was, and just horrifically dissolved these people. And it was always stuck with me how bleak it was.
Death for no reason whatsoever. And along that lines, Jay Birds mentions The Blob, and that one is always going to be a classic. They still do. They didn't this year for obvious reasons, but they still do the Blob run over. That one is close to us, over in Phoenixville, right?
Yep.
And they do the Blob run every year still. The Omen, The Shining, Hollow Man. That was Kevin Bacon, correct?
Naked Bacon.
I do want to point out too. Sleepaway Camp would have Noob's favorite, most horrific ending of all time.
Whoa,
absolutely. One thing I do want to point out about Creepshow 2 is I just want to also share with people, if you get the opportunity, there was a great run there of Creepshow 2, Tales from the Crypt, Tales from the Dark Side. The movie was a fantastic horror movie. If you get a chance to check those out, those are hidden gems that people don't often remember, but I'm kind of a custodian of those movies. I highly recommend them.
And Sam Jr. brings up Hellraiser and Ron Strayed. Although it's not a horror movie, it's definitely a good throw over to the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
It's great for Halloween.
That's a good Halloween watch. But my watch is one that definitely, I don't remember a whole lot about this movie. I just know it still sticks with me. In fact, searching this GIF today still brought up feelings, and that is from 1990, Jacob's Ladder. Mourning his dead child, a haunted Vietnam War veteran attempts to uncover his past while suffering from a severe case of dissociation. To do so, he must decipher reality and life from his own dreams, delusions, and perceptions of death. Directed by Adrian Lin, starring Tim Robin, Elizabeth Pena, and Danny Aiello. This movie, I watched at a friend's house again. It was nighttime. It was dark. This is when, growing up as kids, you want to scare the crap out of yourselves and each other's. If you're on YouTube, you're watching this GIF that I found. These images that they inserted inside this whole entire movie were terrifying. The visual effects were just straight up creepy. This weird head motion thing that they had the guys do, it happened here in this scene. They would have them show up on trains, on subway cars, where this guy didn't know what he was seeing, and it was really this real warped reality. And it gave you this concept of, if I saw something like that, what the hell would I do? Not like if I saw a ghost floating through the room, but if I saw something like that, that would absolutely terrify me. And like I said, even just looking at this gift now still stirs up those feelings where, like, if I saw something like this, I'd be running the other way real fast.
It looks like a gimp guy that's like ready for sex.
These are all Vietnam vets. It was in the chemicals and the war and everything else that just mess with this guy's head, and that's what this movie is him just trying to get a grasp back on reality.
Why is there a ladder?
It's about a mental state.
Yes, Jacob's ladder. It's what is that, a metaphor, I believe,
for being insane.
Yeah, and climbing the ladder
of insanity
to get out of insanity.
You ever played a game of Jacob's ladder? You don't know what a Jacob's ladder
Not
is?
a clue. I thought it was a man's ladder.
A Jacob's ladder. It's like you flip it over, and then the bottom rung becomes the top rung, and you can never reach the top.
Yeah. No, Noob never tried Jacob's ladder. He's familiar with an Eiffel Tower. He was in the middle of it, though.
Yes.
I'm the entire tower.
Yes.
The Eiffel Noober.
Sam Jr. mentions The Wicker Man. T-Zap says Cujo. That was a decent one. American Werewolf in London from Sam Jr. again.
The Wicker Man with Nicolas Cage, though.
That one is classic too, though.
Him acting with those murder hornets.
He was the discoverer of murder hornets.
He really was.
After that, Noob, you better make this last choice good.
Well, this is a recent one, so I don't know if you're prepared for this, but it's Hubie Halloween.
No.
This movie is scary on a personal level to me, and one of the reasons why is, do you have the picture where Hubie's riding a bike?
No, I don't, because I asked you to find me a scary image from Hubie Halloween, which you didn't, so there is none.
I was actually at a job doing things.
There's zero image from this movie that was an absolute piece of garbage.
It was scary because Hubie, who, if many don't know, is slightly challenged mentally.
Just like you.
And he is riding a bike.
Also like you.
And that, well, so here's the thing. This is where it's personal. And it triggers me because I can't ride a bike. And even
Are you serious? You don't know how to ride a bike?
Even Hubie can ride a bike. So I feel...
So you have a picture of a bike on your wall, but you can't ride one.
And Hubie can, so I'm triggered.
You never learned how to ride a bike?
I did not. I had a tricycle when I was younger.
And you still have a tricycle?
And no, I learned... That's where I first became a trisexual. Because I thought that instead of being a tricycle, I wanted to be a trisexual. Then I realized I wanted to be a triceratops. So I was a trisexual tops, and then I gave up on writing it. And so to this day, any movie with mentally challenged people riding bikes triggers me.
So you can't ride a motorcycle?
I can ride an electric scooter. Yeah.
That is two-wheeled.
That is two-wheeled, so I can do things with two wheels.
I feel like a scooter, I've never ridden one. Scott, have you? Are they something that is... Are they super balanced? Like it's super easy to ride one of those?
Just like a bicycle, once you get moving, you're balanced fine, nice and easy, even though you're standing up. I think we're going to have to try something new, and that is teaching Noob to ride a bicycle.
Let's not do that.
That's going to be our next video.
I don't know how you're an adult and you can't ride a bicycle.
I was one of those cool kids that had the small Jeep as a kid because I was a
You mean like a preschool Jeep?
Yeah, like one of those beep beep Jeeps.
Oh,
yeah,
boy.
I drove that around my block, cul-de-sac.
And never got a bicycle?
And no, I was like, fuck it, mommy, I want that Jeep and then I want that Razor scooter. Just like anything you want, Noob.
Oh, jeez.
You are the one and only.
You need to break that cycle, not just the bicycle.
No.
Oh, jeez.
I will never. The only thing I will ride is my Noob cycle.
Oh my god.
That choice by Noob has effectively quieted the chat there. Not a whole lot going on other than Jay Bird suggesting insurance for said bike. Z, your final choice.
All right, my final choice. It's a little bit more of a modern-ish horror movie. I mean, it's not that new, but it was a little gem that somebody recommended to me called Session 9. And when I watched it, I guess it gave me like a new appreciation for modern horror because it was, filmed differently. It's one that isn't very well heard of. David Carradine stars in it, and it has just there's like a sense of oppression in this that is so palpable, and it's a mystery thriller too. So you don't really ever quite understand what's going on until the end, but it's a beautiful, beautiful movie, well acted, and very small cast, and just one of those Like, it's just it stuck with me. And I've always thought about this movie. It's one of the great haunted house movies in my mind because they use like an old abandoned asylum. And I just think it's a really well crafted horror movie.
So it's people just going into an insane asylum and going crazy.
Well, essentially the story is about they're asbestos removers that are hired to go in to remove asbestos from this old insane asylum. And as they're going through it, they uncover certain things. And there's a mystery that starts to happen around it. And they're not sure whether or not it's affecting their personal lives or if it's supernatural. But it's one of those really cool, you don't really see what's coming until the end. And then it's... So
there's a twist?
Yeah, you could say there's a twist. It's more of a mystery. It's not so much like there's a twist.
Interesting.
So I say, this is if you want a really good tense movie that does a really good job of paranoia and tension and doesn't use jump scares and things like that and just uses pure horror, I think this is one of those good movies. There's not a lot of body horror to it. Like there's nothing spectacularly gory, but I think it's just the audio is really well designed. It's just, and really utilizes an amazing set. They didn't have to build a set. They just literally shot in an abandoned asylum, which I'm a big fan of touring those. So I've been to a lot of them around the country and around this area. Our area actually has some of the best old penitentiaries and haunted asylums in the world.
That you break
Penhurst
into.
Asylum.
A few of them, Penhurst has been turned into a haunted house. There's some over in Jersey that, the same, broken into over the years growing up as a kid. Very illegal, very dangerous, especially Penhurst back in the day. We break into that one, not realizing that some buildings had holes that went down 4 or 5 stories. And
Yes.
here we were walking around completely in the dark. Not the scare factor, but just the danger factor was very, very high on that one.
Or even
You just admitted to a felony, Scott.
the Roundhouse in Philadelphia, which is the country's oldest penitentiary, which is still used for ghost tours now, is one of those places. They have haunted mansions or haunted houses there, but they're not nearly as scary as the actual tour of the place itself.
So, what's interesting, we don't have anything else in the chat. I mean, a lot of great movies brought up in the chat. But one thing I've noticed is that we've gone through these movies. A lot of these movies were like childhood movies. And it's just, I guess that's kind of what sticks with you, is your childhood. And that's, of course, when you're going to be more susceptible to scares. Nowadays, when I walk through a haunted house, I laugh. I don't jump or scream. Scary movies, kind of the same thing. They don't affect me as much as they do now, and I guess that's just something that happens with age, perhaps something I miss. But I'm going to go back to a classic movie. Again, it seems to be the theme here for me, but I'm going to say Alfred Hitchcock's 1963, The Birds.
The Birds.
Were you shitted on by a lot of birds?
So I have...
Pretty scary. It is a scary movie.
So I have 2 great stories. Well, one great, fantastic story, and another one more an antidote. But back in the day, as we were all young children, we went ahead and had a watch party at the house where we all sat down to watch The Birds. And I'm sure in Z's house they had a similar experience with a movie called The Squirrels.
Yes.
Thank you, Sam Jr. But so here we are, all young children, sitting around watching The Birds, and my mother decides she's going to come join us and watch this movie with us. So as the movie's progressing, me and a friend of mine, we sneak away into the other room, and we decide to fold together a paper airplane. And as the movie's progressing and one of the bird attack scenes is happening, the 2 of us sneak back into the room, hidden behind a sofa, reach over the sofa, and launch this paper airplane across the room during one of the biggest attack scenes in the movie. This airplane, as if guided by a hand, flies perfectly across the room and lands in my mother's hair. Next to, an inch over, she would have lost an eyeball. So thankfully that didn't happen, but it lands in her hair. She goes through the ceiling. We still have a hole there to this day that never got patched. It terrified her. We all laughed. It was hilarious for us. I don't think she's ever forgiven me. She still doesn't talk to me to this day. But that story, that anecdote, growing up has always been one of my favorite stories. And it was absolutely hilarious. A great story growing up. But here's the interesting thing about The Birds. I don't remember much about this movie. I don't remember particular scenes.
There are birds.
I'm looking at an image here that is in color, but I thought it was black and white when I originally watched it. I don't remember that either. But
they may have colorized
black and white. They made a color version.
They may have colorized it.
But when we say a movie sticks with you, I'm gonna think back to last year, the year before that actually. Still working construction out in a Lancaster area, and we're working on a rooftop installing a power line for a building. And Lancaster area where we were, a lot of areas were just infested with these blackbirds, with crows. Why, I don't know. They just congregated. And as we're sitting there working, all of a sudden the sky almost turned dark as hundreds, I'd say maybe thousands of these effing birds started flying overhead. And they just kept coming and coming, and it just didn't stop. And as far as you could see in one direction, they just was a line of these birds flying at you, and you'll turn around, and there's the line in the other direction. And there's nothing about birds that are scary, but there's still something about that when you look up and you see hundreds, if not thousands, of these things flying overhead. Or like when you go to the old closed down malls out there that still also have a problem, and you just see hundreds of them just sitting around, sitting in every single tree, on rooftops, on power lines. There's still something about that affects you and makes you look around and wonder what the hell's going on right now. And birds aren't scary. There should be nothing about birds that are scary. But because of movies like this, when you're in a situation where you're looking around and you're seeing hundreds of these effing things just sitting there looking at you, the thought crosses your mind. What happens? What happens if these things do decide to just start dive bombing, just start attacking the cars and pecking at the people?
You go inside and then you're fine.
Until they break in. That's what happens to the birds.
It did not work for the people in this film.
Why don't you tell Scott what you learned about crows the other day?
Am I supposed to remember a conversation?
You don't remember what about crows?
No.
No, you don't remember about crows?
What?
That we learned how smart crows are?
Nope.
They're definitely smarter than you because they remember that conversation.
I'm honestly drawing a blank. What crow?
So
conversation?
I showed Noob a video of these. There's actually lots of them online if you watch them. But crows are such demons.
Yes, crows being they hate cats.
They must
fucking hate
cats.
pussy.
So what they do is they'll torture cats into fighting each other. So they'll tease these cats until they get so angry that they just go into slaughter each other. And there's this one great video where they're fighting on top of a roof, and the two cats fall off the roof, and the crow follows them down and continues to like bite them in the tail and poke them in the butt. And
crows are sadistic monsters.
Yeah, they are sadistic.
They just like to watch chaos and murder.
Yeah, it's just amazing how smart they are. So The Birds is possible.
But yes, from 1963, from the mind of Alfred Hitchcock, starring Rod Taylor, Tippi Hedren, and Jessica Tandy. I think Alfred Hitchcock wrote the book on horror film. I mean, his methodology and his style has been imitated many a times. So yeah, this absolutely, I waited for this. This was my last pick, was The Birds.
Well, he's the master. So I agree. So, he did Psycho, Vertigo. Psycho to this day is one of those movies that
the Cat
still
in the
talked
Hat
about.
With Michael Myers is honestly terrifying.
Is it more or less terrifying than The Grinch with Jim Carrey?
That's honestly a good question.
Which is the most horrific?
I want to say the Cat in the Hat's a little more fucked up.
Really, I want to say The Grinch because he's green and kind of gross looking.
Yeah, but the Cat in the Hat is just like on another level of like, why does this exist? The Grinch at least makes sense.
How does it make sense?
I don't know.
And of course, the most terrifying of them all, Blue's Clues.
Oh my god, I love Blue's Clues.
Thank you, Schrader.
And Clifford the Big Red Dog. Love him.
So what do we think? Did we cover it pretty well? At least 2 out of 3 of us.
Yeah, well, me clearly had the best list, so that makes sense.
I don't even think you made it to 5. So
I did make it to 5.
I don't think you did.
I did.
You should count again.
I don't think you did.
Oh,
So, if you like what you heard here this week, head on over to Instagram at ork_u. Check us out at facebook.com/ourreviewswillkillyou. If you're not watching us on YouTube, you're listening to our podcast that's on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, or Amazon Music. And if you want to check out the visuals, check us out at youtube.com/ourreviewswillkillyou, where you'll find this episode as well as all the other great videos that we do. And of course, go to ourreviewswillkillyou.com/links to see all the ways to find us there as well as all the updates with the videos that we do and the output that we do and the things that we do to scare you.
The things that we do. Anyway, thank you so much for the chat tonight. You guys had so many great movies out there. So many amazing horror movies. I personally love The Thing, It, Pet Sematary, although I just watched the really bad remake last night to get psyched for this show.
Shirtless.
New shirtless, the most horrific,
The most terrifying thing that happened tonight.
Sexually exciting as well.
Not even close.
Terrified of how much you wanted it.
Not even close.
Sam Jr.'s on board, right?
Anyway, the best way you can help our channel is by giving us a like, give us a subscribe. If we've earned that subscribe from you, we love sharing our childhood horrors, and we appreciate you sharing yours. Make sure you do so in the comments. Let us know what other type of horrific things, movies that you watched. Give us an age and when you saw it and where you saw it, and maybe a why you saw it.
A picture of when you were younger. That's fine too.
No, please don't post that. So, and be sure to share. We really appreciate everything that everyone has done for us here at the channel. So, from all of us here at Our Reviews Will Kill You to all of y'all at home, we love y'all, and on to the next one.